Got a question from Gadsden, Alabama. Boy, they love Lincoln Riley in Gadsden. He said, do you believe Lincoln Riley is the right fit at USC? I find myself wondering if he runs a program that can win a national title. I still believe in Riley, and his pivot on the defensive side of the ball is encouraging, but I'm just wondering your thoughts. USC feels like they're in that territory Miami was in, up until recently. I grew up, and when I was a kid, Miami was dominant. So you don't have to tell me about what Miami can be. When I was a kid, USC was dominant. So you don't have to tell me about what USC football can be. So when Lincoln Riley went to USC, you didn't have to tell me what could happen if he reignited that program. But when I make the comparison to Miami, what I mean is obviously we've got a ton of high schooling, like early college age folks who watch the show and listen to the show. So let's say you're 19 years old right now. Sometimes it dawns on me the way I look at a program's potential is not the way that you look at a program's potential. If you're 20 years old, you live in Joplin, Missouri, you haven't lived coherently in a world where USC was dominant. You haven't coherently lived in a world where Miami was dominant. You've never taken them serious as national, perennially contending type programs. So it's crazy to you when you listen to me talk about a world where once upon a time, at any given point, respectively, those two programs were the most feared in college football. But once upon a time, USC was the most feared program in college football. It wasn't just that, man, they're going to beat us, much like Miami in their heyday. It was, they're going to embarrass us. And guys, they didn't just do it in out-of-conference early season games. Like they hung 55-19 on Oklahoma in a national championship game one year. So it's hard to get back to that point, I'll grant you. But the question was just, do I think Lincoln Riley can win a national title? He could win it by 1 or 100. Can he win a national title? Well, I've shared my theory on Lincoln Riley here. I'll do it once more. There's a non-small part of me that still believes in Lincoln Riley. Haven't sold my stock on Lincoln Riley. Haven't given up on it. I know some people have. Totally fine. I'm going to hit that in just a second. I'm going to address that in just a second. Because there may even be some people, and maybe you're even a Southern Cal fan, who when you hired him from Oklahoma, oh, it was a huge story. It's one of the biggest stories in the history of this show is when Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go to USC. Just one of the bombshell stories of the decade. Okay? When he went there, maybe you bought in. But then maybe 3 years in, you looked and you said, man, this was fool's gold. It's just not going to happen. And then maybe especially last year, you looked and you said, nope, nope. And then the bowl game, which I don't particularly care about, but some people use it anecdotally, just served to further validate your feeling that, nope, they're never going to win it. That's not where my head's at on Lincoln Riley, but I do get if your head is there. My theory on him is, let me try and put this in the proper order. My theory on Lincoln Riley has always been he's capable of winning a national championship. He hasn't. Then my theory is also he got to USC and basically committed a false start as a head coach. He did not start the program out on the right trajectory. They did not staff well, especially defensively, and therefore the DNA of the program was beneath that of being championship caliber. Then there's a critical moment a few years in where he acknowledges the mistakes, he admits the mistakes, and he tries to course correct. Now, it's my theory that he properly course corrected, but even proper course correction at that point was going to require a minimum of 2 years to really start to see results, which brings us to the year 2026. This is the year where, if my theory is correct, hey, do me one favor right here. Look down. Are you subscribed to the channel? If you are, thank you. If you're not, please click subscribe. It helps us keep the show free and free of corporate interference. All right, that's it for me. Back to the clip. Lincoln Riley's got to provide some affirmation for me. Therefore, their season this year has to provide some affirmation. Or to state it more plainly, for me to continue to believe in Lincoln Riley, they got to be a playoff contender minimum this year. They got to be a Big Ten title contender minimum this year. And I know if you've been watching college football recently, that sounds really weird. Like, why would you be using that kind of language about a program that hasn't even made the playoff yet? Well, it's because this is kind of what they've built to. So if you're a doubter in that, it's a very weird spot for people like me, because people like me believe in Lincoln. But people like me also have to look at the doubters and acknowledge that you're totally valid in feeling the way you feel. Because while I maintain hope, I completely get where people are coming from who do not maintain hope. Because you're looking at it, and you're looking at what Curt Cignetti just did at Indiana, and you're saying, if he can do that at Indiana in year 2, why in the world would anyone need half a decade to do something similar at the University of Southern California? I have no pushback on that. It's a great point. I have no pushback on that. My only pushback was when he hit when we had the great reset of USC football last winter. I said, people have to make up their minds right now. You have to make up your mind right now whether you're willing to go along with this. If you're not willing to go along with it, state your case now, and you're just out on Lincoln Riley and USC, and he might as well be fired right now, which was not reasonable, but it was a reasonable stance to have if tens of millions of dollars worth of money wasn't involved. But what I said was, if you're like me and you do feel like he is sincere, and you do feel like this reset is sincere, you've got to take the added step of admitting, I'm willing to give him a couple of years. Because if you were just willing to give him 6 games, that's not how a reset works. So this is the kind of year where I got to see it from them. And there's no reason that they shouldn't be in the mix. They got a third-year quarterback. They've got 4 of 5 returning on the offensive line. I kind of low-key love their secondary. If anything, the biggest questions on that team may be defensive line, but it may be wide receiver. And, I don't think anyone would blame me if I kind of just blindly trust Lincoln Riley's ability at wide receiver to get enough production there. So at the end, yes, I do still feel like Lincoln Riley can win a national championship. He would be in my bubble. He would be in my survivor bubble. Just because he hasn't doesn't mean he can't. And I also want to say, yes, sometimes people say so-and-so can't do something just because they hate that so-and-so. So Lincoln Riley has got a lot of detractors. Lincoln Riley's got a lot of people who cast permanent judgment on him because of the way he left Oklahoma. And right or wrong, there's a lot of belief out there that he ducked competing in the SEC. And the reason people say that is because he was rumored to be tied to LSU, and then all of a sudden you find out, Lincoln Riley is leaving Oklahoma, but he's going to USC, which at the time was in the Pac-12. And so the perception, which of course he would push back on, but the perception exists nonetheless, that he tried to duck competition. Then lo and behold, he's sucked into the Big Ten anyway. People feel like that, and anyone who feels like that's going to doubt Lincoln Riley no matter what. What I'm saying is, you don't have to have an axe to grind against Lincoln Riley. There's a lot of valid, just legit criticism. There's a lot of legitimate, logic-based reason to doubt. I'm just not part of the doubter camp yet. That's all I'm saying.